The amazing art and science of iridology has many faces. It shows us physical or genetic predisposition. It tells us about our personality. It reveals information about our mental and emotional patterns. It can even predict future possibilities based on our current attitudes and tendencies. At Grand Medicine, we've been studying iridology since 1972. Let's take a brief glance at just a few examples of what can be seen in the irises. Just some of iridology's possibilities. And let's throw in a few sclera images just for fun. In this photo, we see how the iris shows genetic tendency to good general resistance to disease. We see this by noting the relative closeness of the individual iris fibers. The person with this type of iris can take a lot of abuse and still remain standing. Here we see the genetic near opposite. Notice how the individual iris fibers are more loosely woven. These people usually find out that they cannot stay up late, for example, without having to sleep in the next day. So they compensate with better diet and lifestyle and a cheery attitude. This person is a worrier. The lines in the sclera, which are the whites of the eye around the iris, are showing us high emotional reaction and concern. We are looking at the lines that come down to touch the top of the iris. Such people need to move their attention to what is great, to what is inherently happy. In this example, the arrows are pointing to a pattern that tells of a tendency to weakness in the endocrine system of the body. Consider the benefit of knowing such a tendency very early in life. So many endocrine-related diseases can be prevented in this way, and these patterns are easily seen in the eyes very early in life. This extrovert tends to wear his heart on his shirt sleeve. He has a radical type personality and is a born visionary. We can see that he has inherited tendency to weakness in his heart, that he didn't hear "I love you" enough from his mother, and needs to take time to learn real commitment in mate-type relationships. With a map grid overlay, we have an easy way to precisely locate markings. Here in this before and after series, we see chromatic changes that have occurred over a 15-year period. In terms of structural markings, there are no observable changes. The development of the pigment spots can be explained in two ways. In physical terms, this person, now 60 years of age, has increased susceptibility to liver and pancreas difficulty, suggested by the color of these spots. In personality terms, the increased number of pigment spots, or jewels, in the lower photos suggest a movement toward mental attitude. In fact, big mental emotional changes occurred when he changed his career from a social-oriented job to a mental one in research. So we see how the physical, emotional, and mental signs blend together here to describe major aspects of this man's life, and it's all right there in his eyes. In this before and after sclera illustration, we see a person who had a brain tumor removed. The trauma fork marking and the high congestion line tell the story. Notice how both these lines are diminished in the after photo on the right. Note also the greater general clarity of the background, another sign of purification. Here we see the heart area view of the person from the previous slide. The arrow above points to the stress on the heart prior to the surgery and a 30-day fast. Notice how the arrow in the below or after photo points to the same line after the surgery and the fast. The thinning and narrowing of the caliber of that line demonstrates the relieving of pressure to the heart and the positive effects of both the surgery and the fast. Here we see a jewel-type color pigment spot in area number 11, the area for decision. This person will tend to allow fear and doubt to hold him back from making decisions on items of moderate and high level of importance. They need to learn calm, poise, patience, and equanimity to flow with situations and to be courageous when it's time to make decisions. Here we see the classic sign in the sclera referring to the role of the thymus and the spleen in a person with medically diagnosed leukemia. Based on the vessel color, configuration, and caliber relative to the surrounding vessel markings, it suggests a heightened activity involving the spleen and the person's immune response. Here we see a genetic predisposition to difficulties involving the heart and kidneys. These genetic predispositions need not develop into disorders. They usually do, though, but only because the person was not lovingly and intelligently guided to pure natural diet and life-positive lifestyle. Maps of the iris and sclera can be quite effective in helping us pinpoint the various areas of the body where disorders are likely to occur. And, of course, they can help us see the development of various difficulties in advance, so we may work to prevent major problems. This is one of the truly great benefits of the natural markings in the eyes. Everyone is delighted and amazed by these natural patterns in nature. Symmetries, spirals, meanders, waves, foams, arrays, cracks, and stripes. Many philosophers and bright minds have studied and investigated nature's natural patterns. They were able to understand and explain the order in nature at different levels through math, physics, and chemistry. Patterns in living things are explained by the biological processes through natural selection, camouflage, sexual selection, and other kinds of signaling. In developmental biology, pattern formation refers to the generation of complex organizations of cells in space and time. Pattern formation is initially controlled by genes, whose role is well seen in the anterior and posterior patterning of embryos from the fruit fly. While embryogenesis has been studied for more than a century, it was only in the past 15 years or so that scientists discovered that a basic set of the same proteins and mRNAs are involved in all of embryogenesis. It is interesting that in view of the general acceptance of all these patterns in nature, the patterns we observe in the eye seem to be taking a long time in some circles in being recognized as valid. With others, however, the patterns in the eye have always been obvious as significant to our understanding of the body, of our personality, and more. After all, the eyes are called the windows of the soul.